Oh, it's time for class.
Class is in session!
Roll call!
Bueller?
I'm gonna be late for class.
Bueller?
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you're doing?
I'm late for class.
You are mine now. You belong to me.
Did you study for the test?
No more complaining. No more Mr. Kim left to go to the bathroom. Nothing. There is no bathroom.
Hello, classmates, and welcome to another episode of Middle Class Film Class. I'm your host for today, Pete.
And I'm Tyler.
And we are, on this review episode, we're going a little off page because we got no Joseph here.
Nope.
We're paying off what we started last week. We're going to be reviewing True Detective, Season 1. Second half episodes, was that
5 through 8?
It's episodes 5 through 8.
It's a really good story. I never get tired of telling it. Legend shit, you know?
Tyler never gets tired of watching it.
Well, January the 3rd, 1995. I remember.
January the 6th.
Cole for 7 years.
What do you know about him, Marty?
Good detective. Doesn't care about making friends.
He's edgy.
People change. You're obsessive.
You're obsessive, just not about the job.
Just not about the
Relationships
job.
change.
Just now about the
Can you tell me
job.
what's going on?
How many times have we had this conversation, detectives? Nothing ever changes.
Time is a flat circle.
This is a world where nothing is solved.
There is a war happening.
What have you been doing, Marty?
This case, you know the pressure we got on us.
You used to not be such
There's
a
a butt.
chicken shit, I
Just saw
swear.
a butt.
You know why the story's always the same, 17 years gone? Because it only went down the one way.
Everybody knows there's something wrong with them. Everybody's got a choice.
You sure you want to do this?
Not exactly. Everybody wants confession, but everybody's guilty.
All right. So, True Detective, Season 1, second half.
Yeah.
We pick up our story where our heroes they've killed who they think the bad guy is.
No, they do it in this episode.
Oh, you're right. This episode,
Yeah.
this is the raid.
So in episode 4, they're getting ready to, because
They finally met in the present day.
Yeah. No, that happens.
No, they do. It's the very end of episode 4.
Oh, that is you're right. Yeah.
As he's like, you sure you want to do this? And they meet on the side of the road and stuff like that. I saw you follow me back there. And he's like, I was honking at you, of course. Of course you saw me.
Yeah. So, it leads up to the best 6 minutes of television history.
Yeah, this is episode 4.
Episode 5. That's the 6 minute.
No, that's episode 4.
That's episode 5. That is episode 5.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I think
Maybe
you're wrong.
I'm off base on that then. I don't know.
So here's the storyline of episode 5. Unable to make a deal with the Iron Crusaders, Cole
You're
and
right.
Hart
No,
follow
it
one
was
of them.
episode 4.
Because we talked about the long take last episode.
Yeah, you're right.
Come on, Tyler.
You're right.
The listeners deserve better.
You're right.
This is your episode. You wanted to do this.
I do want to do it. I do.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? Kevin from Real Spoilers in the chat. He's like, what are you talking about?
All right, fine.
Kevin, you want to host this show? Come on.
All right.
He's a professional podcast host. Professional.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah, so they do the bust.
Yeah.
And let's see here. So unable to make a deal with the Iron Crusaders, Cole and Hart follows one of them to their meth cookout. Rather than call it in and request backup, they decide to raid the operation on their own. They face little resistance, but after Hart finds 2 children living in abhorrent conditions, they kill the only 2 men they find there.
Yeah.
Well, technically, they just kill the one.
Yeah.
And the other one blows himself up.
Yeah.
Last of Us style on the tripwire.
Right.
Before the review board, they claim to come under heavy fire and end up fighting for their lives. In the process, Reggie Ledoux and the other men were killed. They are commended for their bravery. Things subsequently get better for both of them, at least for a few years. Hart was promoted to detective sergeant and reconciled with his wife, Maggie. Cole received a commendation for bravery and got a girlfriend, Lori. In 2002, however, Cole gets information that the killer may not have been Ledoux. And in the present day, the detectives Gilbo and Papina are told the same story given to the board 17 years before. They reveal exactly why they're so interested in Cole.
And they were alluding to this, I think even from like it was like either episode 1 or episode 2 where Marty says, "What, do you want to hear about the shootout?"
Mm-hmm.
And then Russ says the same thing. It's like, what do you want to hear about?
If you want to hear it, yeah. It's going to be the same story. So it's only one way it went down.
And that's why I really like the storytelling leading up into this episode, is because you know some big shit's about to go down. Like, they keep alluding to it very subtly, though. Like, it's in the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the focal point of leading up to it. Like, you know something's big is going to happen, but you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know the scope of it. And with episode 4, I was mistaken. I thought
this is where he goes on the raid,
right,
with the Iron Crusaders, with Ginger.
Yeah, with Ginger. And oh my God,
I don't do that no more. I don't need no B&Es.
I don't do B&Es. Yeah, I'm so sick of talking to you like a man. Bam!
I'm so sick. You gotta get the whistle on there.
I mean, I swear to God, like, if there has to be one day where I can punch some man out and say, I'm so sick of talking to you like a man.
You can do that to me anytime you want.
No, I'm not going to do
just
that.
Hang out in the backyard and just fight each other.
No, it would be more like in a bar fight. Like, it would be a bar fight. I'm so sick of you talking to you like a man. I almost said talking to you.
Talking to you like a woman. I've never been in a bar fight, but I have been in a fight outside of a bar. Yeah. I don't consider that a bar fight because you got to be like, you have to be able to throw chairs and glasses and bottles of whiskey and stuff at people.
I mean, I couldn't do a bar fight though. I just couldn't do it.
Why? You just hype yourself up over it. Now you're saying you can't do it? I believe in you.
No, physically I could do it. But the bar I go to is a very delicate ecosystem. So
you don't have to be at your home bar. You don't get in a home bar fight. No, you want to go into the away team.
But I think I really like the payoff of like the subtle hints of Rust and Marty saying like, you know, there was like this huge gunfight. There's this huge gunfight and you don't know what's going to happen. And so leading up to it in this episode was very satisfying. And it kind of pulls a little bit more light on Rust's upbringing because his dad was a Vietnam veteran and there's this conversation where Russ talks to Marty. Have you ever been hunting before? And then Marty says, yeah, I think about last year I got like some
10 point buck or something like that.
Buck or something. He's like, I'm not talking about sitting up in a tree house with what does he call it? It's basically like a scent that you like lure in
musk.
Like, yeah. And
I'm talking about really hunting, tracking.
Just being so fucking condescending.
I mean,
that is hunting though. Like
that's hunting.
Like that is hunting. Like
if you really want to get technical, fishing is also hunting.
Yeah,
but it's a very different thing.
Right.
Brianna's dad does bow hunting.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
The only thing cooler than bow hunting, like being more in touch with your masculinity,
strangling a deer with your bare hands.
I was gonna say knife hunting.
Oh, knife hunting.
You sneak up on the bear with a knife.
Just like
immediately after hibernation, though,
like Conan the Barbarian, just like jumping off of a tree.
Bear comes out of hibernation. He's like all gangly and barely has any strength. And
but you have to do the Arnold scream.
Yeah. Can you do it one more time? Yeah. Say there's a bear over there. And say I'm hunting a bear.
I'm hunting a bear.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
You have to be in the brush. You're like, what are you doing? I'm hunting a bear.
That's very good, Arnold. Can you give us another knife attack as Arnold?
But so I really I really like I just want you to stop saying odd shit. But I really like that the way that he tracks going into the meth.
Yeah, it's great. You can see the
lab.
Broken twigs and trees and stuff like that. And the grass
you can see Rust like concentrated like on his surroundings, and he's really into like this like tracking hunting mode. And I think Matthew McConaughey did a very good job at portraying that.
The character is a weirdo, objectively a weirdo.
Oh yeah, and he speaks in poems. Like he said.
He speaks in poems. He's bad at parties, but at the end of the day, as Marty says, he's a fantastic detective.
Yeah,
and when it comes down to this, it's like that's a man.
Yeah,
that is a MAN, capital M, man with three N's at the end. Man, just tracking, and it's not. He's not tracking a deer. He's tracking a pedophile, meth cook.
He's tracking
murderer.
men.
Yeah. The most dangerous game.
Yeah, the most dangerous game.
So they did that. That leads.
I mean, that whole episode is basically based on the situation that they were alluding to of the capture of Reggie Ledoux and Duwall. I think that was his name, Duwall or DeWitt or something like that. I think it was Duwall. Duwall's the meth cook, and you know what's interesting about the
Reggie Ledoux is Reggie Ledoux's the
he's
big,
the blonde,
the big dude.
haired. No, Reggie Ledoux's the blonde haired guy. I thought.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, no. Duwall is the meth cook. Reggie Ledoux is the blonde haired guy who kept saying like the Black Star.
Reggie Ledoux is the cook, by the way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he's the cook. He's the dude who's walking around in his underwear with the gas mask on and stuff.
Oh, he's the cook. I thought it was the big, heavier set guy.
No. The big dude that leads him there. He's like, I ain't getting in this. We're not buying your shit. We don't need your shit. I already got my cook. And then he drives back and hides his stuff because the cook never leaves the property. Reggie Ledoux never leaves the property. He just stays there
because he escaped parole,
does unmentionables to the children, and just cooks drugs all day.
Yeah, so
what a fucking creep.
But here's the interesting thing that I kind of picked up on because I'm not gonna lie, I after we did the last episode, I went and watched the last episodes, like
the first four.
The last four.
Oh, last four, just immediately that same day.
Just immediately.
You said you watched Love Lies Bleeding that same day.
I did.
You sent me a message. You watched all those, and then you binged.
Yeah,
Love Lies Bleeding, and then 4 hours of True Detective.
Yeah, I was literally just like sitting in front of my computer doing that. But anyways, but I did rewatch the last four again this week because, I mean, that cliffhanger on episode 4, it was hard to keep away. And so rewatched the last 4 episodes on that weekend and also Love, Lies, and Bleeding. And then
what's it called again?
Love, Lies, and Bleeding.
Oh, okay.
And then I rewatched the last 4 again just to, I don't know, I guess refresh my memory. It's not like I forgot about them, but I wanted to make sure I knew my shit. And
okay, wait a second. So you said you watched it immediately that day.
Right. Yeah, on that Saturday, last Saturday.
And then you watched it again?
And then I watched it again this
Okay, so you watched
week.
it twice in the last... Okay, so 8 hours of True Detective this week. Which, I mean, it's good. I mean, I could binge that whole show in like 2 days.
Yeah.
But all that being said, Tyler, you have no excuse not to watch 2 movies a week.
I know. You're right. You're right.
After you watch 8 hours of True Detective and Love Lies Bleeding, did you still have a productive week? You felt edified and nurtured in your health?
But I mean, I guess I don't know.
What I'm saying is, did you have a terrible week because you spent so much time watching this stuff for the show? 8 hours worth of shows plus 2 hours for Love Lies Bleeding. 10 hours worth of content you consumed for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, no.
And you felt good, right? Good week?
Yeah, it's a good week.
Why can't you do that every week?
Well, you know what? That's a great argument. However,
okay.
So one thing I noticed about, and I'm just going to be going through, I'm not going to go through each episode, so I'm just we're
going through each episode.
Well, that's fine. We can do that. But like in an over-encompassing way, all of the antagonists in this season of True Detective, have you noticed that they've all been like taller than our heroes? Like, so
I don't think Reggie Ledoux was. He's pretty short.
No, he was taller. He was taller. So was the meth cook.
The meth cook was tall.
The meth cook was tall.
And so was the ultimate baddie who they thought was the main guy. The preacher. What preacher?
Tuttle, the preacher. Tuttle.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
He would like they do a side by side shot. I think it was in episode 6 where Rust goes to interview him at his own like home-based
his compound. Yeah, he's talking to him about the outreach church.
Yeah, the Wellspring
program, and why that's not a thing anymore.
Right,
and he goes to get the files or whatever.
So they do a side-by-side profile of them while they're in front of the bay window, and he has like an inch or more on him than Rust. And then you look at the big burly guy that they meet at the bar. He's taller than Rust. And then
Ginger
is the same size as Russ, as far as I can recall.
Okay.
And then the guy,
I never noticed any of that.
the guy with the guy with the scars on his face.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Childress. I can't remember. Oh, Earl Childress.
All right.
He's taller than Rust and Marty. So I noticed like there's kind of a pattern of the antagonist always being like having this like imposing presence in front of them.
That's cool. Yeah.
And
So can we get back to the storyline of episode 5?
yeah.
So they did the bust, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Really tense. They're like both teaming through the double wide trailer or whatever it is out there, a little house or something they have on the property as the big dude is off in some storage shed.
Yeah.
And once they get Reggie Ledoux on the ground, he starts babbling on about black stars and your time is coming, and this is all happened.
I saw you in a dream.
I saw you in a dream. This has all happened before. Blah 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 blah.
Time is a flat circle. And my favorite line is where Rust has the gun like towards the bigger man. He's like, "What is that, Nishi? You shut the fuck up." I want to say that to someone so bad.
Again, you can say it to me.
No, it has to be natural. Like if
Yeah,
someone
say it to me naturally.
Like no, if someone like it has
Next
to be.
time I'm drunk and pontificating at you,
You're
and I'm
like,
talking about life, and you're like, "What's that,
Ty-
Nietzsche? Shut the fuck up, Pete. Shut the fuck up." I listen to you talk every week. God damn it.
I thought when I first watched the show where when Marty goes up and pops a cap in Reggie Ledoux's head,
I shouted out loud the first time and this time too.
I was like, "Oh!"
I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah.
He killed him. You think he's okay? You should call the ambulance.
But I like how like calm Rust was. Like when he saw that he was like making a decision. He's like, "Okay, shit."
Yeah, Rust is dope. In that.
And then the burly guy, he goes and he blows himself up with the homemade traps that they have around, which was funny.
Yeah,
I laughed at that.
that was also very shocking.
But Russ knew exactly what to do. He was like, "Okay, you got to get this handcuffs off him before his blood settles."
Yeah,
and like we got to make this look legit.
I think
by happenstance they find an AK-47 just sitting there.
Well,
with a drum.
Well, yeah, that's the drug dealers. They're in the den of the drug dealers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny. It was just like it was so readily available because you see Russ go into the trailer and then he just comes back out with an AK-47 with like a drum bear, like with a drum magazine, and he's just like.
Well, there's a parallel to a movie that we covered on the show years ago, Place Beyond the Pines, because in this there's a wonderful editing of this scene of this episode when they're basically Marty and Rust are getting ready to attack the property, and they're sneaking onto the property very quietly.
Yeah.
They're in sneak mode mission, Metal Gear Solid mode.
Yeah.
And as they're doing that on the camera, the voiceover of them at the parole board or the hearing, the summary hearing, and they're saying, we got noticed by DeWall and Reggie Ledoux, and they opened fire on us with heavy artillery automatic weapons, and they're slowly creeping onto the property. And you're like, oh, they're lying about this. And as they're at the very end, after both of them are dead, and they're trying to stage the environment, Rust takes that AK-47 and just lights up all the spot where they came in. Yeah, basically setting it up for the story that they're about to tell. And then you hear the VO again, and it's them talking to like the commanding officers and stuff, giving their statement of what happened at the event.
I think they call it like the shooting board or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like that exact same thing happens in Place Beyond the Pines with Bradley Cooper when he kills, what's his name?
Ryan Gosling's character?
Yeah, but I can't remember his name. It's like
I can't remember.
Handsome Dan or something like that.
Handsome Dan.
And he kills him in that house.
Yeah.
And he's giving a statement, and Bruce Greenwood is his captain. And he goes, did he reach for his gun? He goes, he had a gun. He goes, but he reached for it, right? And he's like nodding his head. And he goes, I'm not sure. And he's like, he stops the tape and he goes, I'm going to do this again. And he presses record and he's like, he reached for his gun next, right? He goes, yes, he did. He reached for his gun.
Yeah.
And then he drew it and pointed at you, right? He's like, yes, he did. And then they continue the statement.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to manufacture the events that happen in retrospect to paint the police officers in the best light. In Place Beyond the Pines, that was bad.
Right.
In this version, it's essentially you're rooting for them. You're like, fucking hey, they did it, you know?
Well, I mean, you have to, I think, plus for them being in a rural area where they were and rescuing 2 children that were being drugged and abused.
Yeah.
There is probably a lot of not questioning the scene of what happened.
Oh, there's definitely questioning.
Well,
that's
I mean,
what the shooting board's for. But
Yeah.
they're manufacturing their own story, which in this world, us, you and me watching the show, we're like, yeah, good for them. But at what point is there a line? Are they crossing the line? Like we see both the good and the bad, but we don't really acknowledge the bad. Like they are breaking the law by doing that.
Sure.
But who cares? That's like Dirty Harry. When Dirty Harry's fucking up those dudes and you're just like, good, he's a rogue cop. And then in real life, if you have a rogue cop, you're like, I don't know, I don't like rogue cops. That's not a good thing.
I mean, so I guess what my point is that if it was in a more liberal sort of city, state, it probably would have been handled differently. But with it being in the South, in Louisiana,
I think you're giving
child
police,
abuse.
I think you're giving police officers in liberal cities way too much credit.
I'm not.
Whether or not, if this was happening in San Francisco, would it be the exact same thing?
I'm just saying, you have to think of the context of it. It's 1995. It's in the deep South. You're dealing with child abuse and a drug lab. Of course, they're going to have to go through the formalities of.
I'm not saying they're not. All I'm saying is we're applauding them for doing this, even though they're breaking the law.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting thing to think about.
It is.
At what point do you stop applauding it? You know
I think what Marty did was not good, though. Like,
Or he killed Ledoux.
Yeah.
Fuck him. Kill him.
No, because
Fuck
he had
him. He's dead.
because he was part of the sprawl. He was part of the sprawl. Like he could have given information up.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
But he's not going to.
That's because if you recall in, I think it's episode 7,
Okay.
where it was
We'll get there.
it was episode 6.
We'll get there.
So yeah, let's go on to episode 6.
Okay, episode 6. Here's the synopsis. Marty tells Detective Gilbo and Papina that back in 2002, Cole started investigating something that he wasn't aware of. Their last case as partners was that of Charmaine Boudreaux, who killed her child.
Yes.
Cole gets a confession out of her, but Martin thinks it contributed to his deteriorating condition. Cole was in fact pursuing a lead about the Tuttle schools, an initiative to provide Christian education as an alternative to public schools. He learns that back in 1988, there had been accusations of child molestation at the school. Kelly, the girl he and Martin rescued from Reggie Ledoux in 1995, tells him of another case about another man with scars who made her watch while they did to the boy who was the prisoner with her. Cole is convinced that the killings are going unreported or unconnected and that they simply can't get everyone involved in the Dora Lane killing in 1995. When he starts talking conspiracy and the possible involvement of Billy Lee Tuttle, his commanding officer, Salter, shuts him down. In the present day, the detectives also question Maggie, now long divorced from Martin, about what Cole might have been up to in 2002. She had no contact with Cole since that time and has positive recollections about him. In fact, an incident involving the 3 of them led directly to the breakup of her marriage and the 2 detectives as partners.
Oh yeah, she did have a positive interaction
recollection with him.
Yeah, it was positive.
What'd you think about that scene, Tyler?
Oh my god, I felt so bad for Rust because
He got laid.
Yes,
he ruined his relationship with Marty.
So this is the reason why I felt bad for Rust is because we talked about it on the last episode where Rust didn't like Marty because he had everything that Rust wanted.
Correct. He had the adoring wife. He had the children. Rust had that taken away from him when his daughter died in that car accident.
Exactly. And so if you recall in that scene where Maggie comes over and Rust had just been freshly suspended. And so
Man on the edge.
So he's blind drunk on Jameson looking at dead women.
Pictures of dead women in his house.
Pictures of dead women.
As you do on a Friday night.
With deer antlers on your card table.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a regular Friday night for me.
Sure, right. Absolutely.
And
After riding the rails.
yeah, after riding the rails. So
Okay.
she comes over and basically confesses because she finds the pictures on Marty's cell phone of Beth, who was the girl that he slipped her a 20 at that ranch, that prostitute ranch.
Okay. They're called sex workers, Tyler.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting.
Bitten by your own snake.
Oh, that's how we say it. Okay.
Yeah. Stung by your own tail.
Yeah.
Stingray style.
So she gets mad. She goes to a bar, tries to pick up a guy, and she
Can't do it.
Couldn't do it because the guy was, he was soy cuck.
Soy cuck.
Yeah. And so she thinks to herself, well, I know a real man.
Mm-hmm.
I know a real man. Goes to Rust's townhouse and basically throws herself at him. And Rust, thinking, oh wow, like this is going to be a new beginning, because he had a crush on Maggie.
Mm-hmm.
Like that
I don't even think he thought it that far through. I think he was just in an emotional state. He was already drunk. Doesn't have his wits about him. He's woe is meing his life right now.
Yeah.
And then this 10 out of 10 smoke show, Michelle Moynihan walks through the door and is just like, Marty's not treating me right. He never treats me right. And
he's doing it again.
Rust, yeah, exactly. He's doing it again. And Rust is like, man, fuck that guy. Because remember, my opinion is that Rust hates Marty.
Yeah.
I think that he has full and utter contempt for Marty. And he finally says, all right, that's fine. She's going to leave him. I'm going to give her a good and what for. And it's not his decision. She comes on to him.
Yeah, she comes on very thickly.
And I know it takes two to tango. But
she takes advantage of him.
in this situation, he's drunk, she's not. She is preying on him. This is rape.
Wow.
Rust was raped.
Oh my God.
Rust was raped. I'm saying it right now.
Okay.
I know that's a scary word,
That
but
is
that's what happened. Flip the roles.
Yes, I understand. I get it. So he does. So he gives it to her, but good.
But good, yeah.
And afterwards, she
best 1 minute of her life.
It
was like less than a minute.
It was like 45 seconds.
That's a new personal record for Rust, I think. I mean, if nothing else, he's efficient.
So, well, you gotta give him credit where credit's due. But I think
everybody has a different objective when it comes to sex. Some people, it's personal record speed.
Well, yeah. I mean,
One pump chump is that an insult?
some people would say it isn't.
Yeah.
But
People are saying. People are saying.
People are saying. But
Man, you got two dynamite impressions this episode. Can you give me a Christopher Walken impression doing Donald Trump?
Well, they're talking about Joe Biden.
Oh, I just felt like I was right. Chris, are you here in the room with us right now?
But going back to the sex scene, though,
Okay.
I felt like Rust, like, yeah, he wanted to give it to her, but he didn't want her to leave. Like, he thought, oh, well,
No. He did want her to leave. The second it was done, he realized what had been done, and it probably didn't help that.
She said, "I did this to hurt him."
Mm-hmm.
That was when I felt bad for Rust, because I think he was very vulnerable.
Well, before she said that though, he already realized how much he fucked up, and then she turned around and they made eye contact, and then she really put the nail in the coffin where she said, "I'm sorry, it had to be someone that I knew would hurt him."
Yeah,
I tried to do it with a stranger.
Pissed.
Yeah, so.
Good
for besides the fact that she's taking advantage of Rust, good for her.
But the scene preceding
For finally getting over fucking Marty. I hate that guy.
Yeah, Marty
sucks. He's the worst.
Yeah, he sucks. But the scene preceding that sex scene,
Proceeding or preceding?
or proceeding, I guess.
Okay, just curious. I didn't hear. Where she talks to Marty at the kitchen table.
Where she's at the dining table and she has a glass of wine and she just nonchalantly just says, "I fucked your partner."
I fucked Ted. I mean Rust.
I mean Rust.
Yeah, Ted Beneke, Rust,
Yeah.
Cole. Same thing.
And oh man, that was such a great very well acted dramatic scene.
She was very intense in that. And then he like, well, what are you saying to me right now? Which I think is the dumbest thing. I know that when you're being given information like that,
Yeah.
you're not thinking clearly, but he's like, what are you saying to me right now? What are you saying?
I don't
I
understand.
don't understand what you're saying. He's like, she just said she fucked Rust. How spell? You need to spell it out. Draw a picture.
Yeah.
And he like lunges across the table. He shows his colors again that he's a piece of shit, and he like basically strangles her.
No, and she's just
He's
like,
do it, you fucking coward.
because then you'll have something to explain to your daughters.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn, that is intense.
I know.
And so, I
But
mean,
then they have the fight in the parking lot, which is another great scene.
yeah.
I like parking lot fights and out front of a cop police station.
And then everyone's egging them on too, like no one's stopping them. I like how the captain comes out.
Wouldn't
like,
you? If you work with the weirdo Rust and he starts getting in a fight with his partner, you'd be like, "Oh shit, Rust is fighting his partner out in the parking lot."
Oh yeah, I mean, I would be on the sidelines, but I like the
Yeah, you'd absolutely be egging him on.
I like how the captain just comes out and is like, "You guys are all just standing here watching this shit go down.
Aren't you cops?
Aren't you cops?
Aren't you supposed to stop this shit?" Nah, it's fun though.
Yeah,
It's fun, Chief.
and so I like how after the shootout, everything's like all good. You know, Rust he
Yeah,
finds,
they're cool for a minute.
Yeah, they're cool for a minute, but like the downward descent towards like darkness like felt very satisfying. I guess satisfying would be the correct term I would use, because I mean, it's not like I want to see these people miserable, but I want the drama. So
So then we get into episode 7, and episode 7.
that's kind of like when they're like pretty much in modern time.
Cole and Hart try to discover if a series of missing persons reports could be related to Dora Lang murders and the Tuttle family. So this is where they confront Reverend Tuttle. No, they confront not Reverend Tuttle, but the like old police chief that's now like a senator or some shit.
No, he's a sheriff of a parish.
Yeah.
Now.
He's
Because Marty says something along the lines of, well, you can't arrest a sheriff unless you get the governor's permission in the state of Louisiana. So they could have probably did it, but because of the weird laws, they couldn't.
Yeah. And this episode, you also meet the owner of the bar that Rust is working at.
Oh, such a badass.
Yeah, Dumain's Delight or Dumain's Den or something like that. That's what it's called. And what's his name? Maggie comes in and visits him there for a minute, and she's talking. I know, you get out of here. You're classing the place up. Yeah. And
you just see him in the background.
I love he's just chilling quiet.
But he like has his head like in his arms like this.
Yeah.
Like just
Well, he's a broken man as well. He lost a child as well.
Yeah.
And and then later on in the episode, Marty comes in, and Marty and Rust have this new relationship.
Right.
Rust cuts him in on all of his clues. He's got this storage shed full of just looks like psychopathic material, but it's really just clues to this case. But it's an interesting point because if you're investigating a murder and you're collecting all this stuff, if you're a police officer, you have carte blanche, you can do whatever you want or whatever. But in the context of like a civilian doing it, anytime that you're trying to do something like that, you look just as insane as the people doing it.
Right. Which is why they had a spotlight on Rust, because he was showing up to all these crime scenes.
That was sloppy on his part. I thought that was interesting. Like he's there, and you'd think that he would be smart enough to not be immediately at the scene of the crime where they're taking photos and stuff.
Well, he's a drunk at this point too, so like he probably wasn't even really thinking. Like he had an obsession. No, and so he wasn't. I
don't think he's a drunk. I don't think he's a drunk.
What are you talking about? He's drinking the whole time in the past, like episode 7, episode 8. Like he has his flask or he has his beer, and he's always chain smoking. That dude is drunk the whole time.
Is he?
Yes. He might have his head on him, but again, he's affected.
I know he's drinking during
I
know he's drinking during the interviews, but I think that the point of that was to make him seem like a drunk, even though he's not.
Actually, the point of the reason why he was drinking during the interviews is because anything that he was saying on camera would be inadmissible in a court of law.
Yeah, he comes off as a drunk, as a lush.
So I mean I mean, that's just a theory. Like, it's not really spelled out, but that's kind of like what people were saying, like online. Like, oh, that's the reason why he was doing it.
So they get together and they decide that they think they found something, and
they did find something because when they go into the storage unit, like after like they do their interviews, like they meet up.
Well, Rust already found that tape, and it's basically just a tape of children being abused.
Yes,
ritualistically, religiously. They have all the same iconography. They got the crown, the dude's wearing the crown and all that stuff. And thank God they don't show really any of it.
I mean, you can infer by Woody Harrelson's like acting
his reaction to it all is great. And then they get the they get on the boat with Marty starts getting buddy with the sheriff.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey man, we should hang out. We should go golfing." And as he's golfing, he's asking him questions about this case.
Yeah, the Dory Lang case.
Yeah, the Dory Lang.
Because he was a lead on it. I think he was a lead on the case. If I'm recalling correctly, he was the lead on that case. But it was like the file was like made in error or something like that.
Well, there's, and I'd say that's the one thing that I think is a detriment to this show, depending on how you watch it and the type of person you are, is there's a lot of different small moving pieces in the case, and it's almost like, well, now we just found this random case and this random little tiny clue that led us to here, and it may seem a little convenient on the surface, but if you're talking about the lifespan of these characters, went from 95 where all the main shit happened up to the shooting, and then in 2002, 7 years later, is when he gets the hint that it might be connected to the Yellow King and all this stuff.
Because he interrogated that
one tweaker woman that killed her kids.
Yeah.
And then, but that one clue led him down an interesting path. And I think it's pretty fantastic the way they show that. And it's like, they're just back to their normal life. And then this one small thing happens, and it is a domino effect that leads to finding the real killer.
Yeah.
But even if that seems a little overwhelming or a little convenient or whatever, if you just kind of switch it off, you don't have to know the difference between Dora Lang and Marie Fontenot and all that stuff. It's just like they're detectives that found a clue. They're leading to the next thing. Somehow it found them to this guy, and the finale that you're leading up to is really fantastic. But when Marty gets up buddy with that cop, he ends up on his boat.
Yeah.
And it's not Marty's boat.
No, I remember, I love that scene. Well, isn't that your boat? It's not mine. Not mine either. So they just essentially stole a boat.
Yeah.
They just stole a boat.
And then Robert Domain, the guy that owns the bar that Rust is working at, is hiding in the bushes as a fucking sniper.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I got a friend from way back when, sniper hiding out in the bushes. You try to leave, he'll get you." And he's like, "Yeah, you fucking asshole."
And then he just raises his hand.
And he lights up the dude's car. It's Maserati.
I know it. Of course it would be a Maserati too.
That's that's a weak ass car.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, if all of the cars to portray a personality on someone,
that's a good one.
A Maserati is gonna make you look like a piece of shit.
Well, because the other thing is, like, so for most people who may not know this, Maserati is manufactured by Ford. So essentially, most of like the Ghibli, which is that car, is basically just a high performance Ford chassis with a Maserati body on it. So you're spending double that you would on a like a Ford for basically just that demonic looking M. Pitchfork M on the front.
I don't think it was on purpose, but I would like to think it was on purpose that they chose a Maserati for this piece of shit guy who overlooked the case of Dory Lang being a missing person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it.
Oh, and then also before the sniper fire, they force him to watch the tape, and his screams are just
guttering.
Just haunting and chilling to hear that. It's a perfect example of a situation where they could have maybe shown something a little bit and then pulled back, but not knowing and just letting your imagination fill in the gaps is that much more effective.
Yeah, I mean, like, you think about the scope of the abuse that was happening, because I read up, there's a lot of subtlety with season one that you really, really have to pay attention to, like the small details. But the child abuse stuff that was happening, like in that videotape, all those people, like they're either dead or they don't do that shit anymore. So like the whole like cult aspect of it, Rust found out about it after the fact that it was like long gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why when he went to Reverend Tuttle's compound, and he was quote unquote bracing him about it, like you could tell like it like spooked him because he wasn't participating in that shit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had his trophy of like the videotape and like the pictures and stuff in his safe. But
hey man, that was just a phase. Leave me alone. I was in college.
exactly.
We were
That's what it was.
experimenting.
That's what it was though. It was just like a thing that happened and then they stopped doing that shit. But because they have such they have such influence in their community that they got away with it. Russ catches on to it. It was far too late. But if we're gonna get back with the guy with the scars, Errol Childress.
Errol Childress, yep.
He was involved in it when he was a kid, and it kind of fried his brain because like he was abused as well, and he kind of essentially took the torch and kept going on with it. But he was protected because of his namesake.
Yeah, because he was related to
Right. So
what's
they
his
knew
name?
he was.
Tuttle.
They knew he was still out there doing that shit. But they were like, yeah, well, you know what? That's just tradition.
hey, you can't get old cousin Errol.
Yeah,
He's out there mowing those lawns, painting those houses.
exactly. And plus, he knows too much too. So like, they didn't want to risk him like going to like authorities or anything. I mean, like it's a whole. That's what Rust was saying. Like in episode 7, when he shows Marty the
sprawl.
It's the sprawl, and that's so true. It is the sprawl. Like,
Listen here, Marty, it's a sprawl.
and then yeah, Marty's just like that. Just sounds like conjecture.
Yeah, well,
Which I mean, it does. Like, I mean, because you think. Of course, like you want to root for Rust because you believe him. When you said that you thought he was the killer, I was really surprised that you thought that. I did not think that.
that's what the two that are investigating him think.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like I didn't. I had no.
All I know is
inclination of him doing any nefarious.
All I
sort
know
of
is that
thing.
Rust has a checkered past. He's a fucking weirdo, and he's got depression that really drives him to do some interesting things.
Yes.
So I thought it's not beyond the realm of possibilities to say 17 years later, if he fell off the wagon and he went down a bad path and started, I mean, he's done drugs in the past. He's seen people flayed alive.
Yeah.
You know, he's got some shit in his past. It's not beyond the realm of possibilities that he could have gone down an interesting direction. I'm glad he didn't though, because you know, his character is it's much better that he didn't go that way.
But so I can see Marty's perspective on Rust though too, because yeah, he speaks in riddles and he's just overall very weird. Like in all of the ideas or theories that he was proposing, like sounds like a conspiracy theorist. Granted, it pays off in the end because he proves that he was correct. However, like from a normal person's standpoint of view, especially like if you're like the captain of a police station and you're hearing all of this, like you're calling out like a really huge influence on that local community saying, oh, this guy is abusing children. He's a part of a cult. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You got to stop doing that.
It's like
shit.
hot fuzz. It's like being able to say there's a murderer in this small town. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you high?
Yeah.
You know, if the people around you don't believe you, you are taking a risk, like making that wild accusation about a very high figured person.
But what's interesting about the perspective of Rust, like at least from an audience point of view, is he's so charismatic with the way he talks, the way he composes himself that one of the detectives in the modern day, I can't remember their names for the life of me.
Kittle?
The one that Marty goes to says, I can't read your partner, but I can read you.
Pagania.
Yeah. When he goes up to him and he's interviewing Marty, he's saying, he's just manipulating you, man. Like you sound just like him. Like when he's like going up to him saying like, are you going to take this or what? Like when they eventually find out where their guy is.
All right, well, let's get into episode 8, the finale.
Yes.
So here's the long synopsis. Rust and Marty continue their search for the man with the scarred face. Marty notices that in the crime scene photo, one of the houses had been recently painted green, as in the green-eared monster. They locate the former owner who remembered having the house painted that year, and thanks to tax records, learn that the company was owned by Childress's family. They visit the late registered business address and descend into a hellish labyrinth from which they have to fight their way out to survive.
Yeah.
So great detective work. They see the scene, the crime scene. They see the fresh green paint. Hear the girls talk about the spaghetti-faced green-eared monster. And you're like, oh, maybe it's just paint. Maybe he had paint on his ears. Oh,
Yeah.
he's a painter. Oh, he's painting this house green. It's a little convenient, but maybe that's just they painted all the houses green and that was like their service or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And you realize once they see who it is, you're like, that's the fucking guy you saw in episode 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Mowing that lawn.
Mowing the lawn.
Yeah, and it's like, as many times as I've seen this, when I came back to episode 3, I'm like, is that the bad guy? Nah, that can't be the bad guy. He's just mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
And
the reason
it's the guy.
they do a very clever thing about hiding the scars on his face because he has facial hair in episode 3 when he's mowing the lawn, where Rust isn't even looking at him either.
Yeah.
He's looking at the abandoned school.
Yeah. And then Marty calls him back immediately. Like he doesn't get time to spend a whole lot of time with that guy.
Yeah.
And so they make their way out there. And before they even physically get out there, you get the interaction between Errol Childress, who's the guy with the scars on his face, and his
sister
wife.
Yeah, it's a sister.
Played by Ann Dowd.
What?
Can you believe that? That's Ann Dowd.
I had no idea.
Every time I watch this, I can't believe it's her. She's the friend in Hereditary, Joan.
Yeah.
She's also in she's been in a billion things. But she's a really, really fantastic actress in general. And in this, fuck, her and him are so creepy.
They are.
I mean, they have this weird relationship. She calls it making flowers on me.
Do you want to make
You wanna
flowers?
make flowers today?
We haven't done it in 3 weeks.
No, you should
makes me sad.
She said, you haven't made flowers on me in about 3 weeks.
Makes me sad is all.
I'm tempted to use that as a shorthand in real life, except for the context is so gross.
It really is. I mean, that set though for the finale, like at his house, it really felt gross.
Oh yeah,
it felt really gross. I felt bad for that German Shepherd, that poor German Shepherd.
I know. As soon as that door opened, he bolted out.
Yeah, he's like, I'm
gone.
fucking out here.
I'm gone. These friggin' freaks in here.
Yeah.
You ever deliver to a house like that, and you're like, ugh.
Yes, I have.
Yes, I'm sure you do a lot.
No, not anymore. I did deliver to a house that reminded me of the killer's house. It wasn't even like a paved road. Like I was like on a dirt road, like going.
I'm more
through
talking about in the house.
Oh, I didn't go in the house, but
You knock on the door and they open up, and you get to look inside.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it kind of looked like that.
You ever peek in the house and go, "Hey, what's that?"
Oh yeah, of course. Everyone peeks. Everyone peeks in houses.
Yeah.
Come on.
You talk to them about it though?
What would I talk about? No,
I don't know. Whatever's in their house.
I'm trying to get the hell out of there because I feel like I'm gonna get killed.
Angry Otter's in the chat. He says, "Pizza." He was a pizza delivery boy in the '80s. He's seen some things.
Yeah, I have as well.
So I got a story. So before I went into auto body, I spent a summer selling alarms door to door.
Oh yeah,
Home alarm systems. Yeah, in some of the rougher areas. And the guy that trained me, he said, and this is why I really can't do sales anymore, because you kind of have to like abandon a lot of your morals.
Oh yeah,
with sales. And I always said, I'm not going to lie, but there were things that I would do that made me uncomfortable. And a lot of them were very beneficial to me, because I was kind of a shy person before, and I was kind of afraid to talk to strangers and afraid of rejection, like really afraid of rejection. And that summer, you have to knock on like 300 to 500 doors a day.
God damn.
And the goal was to get 1, maybe 2 yeses. 1 a day would be considered a win.
1 a day out of 300?
Yes. So that erased my fear of rejection very quickly. But the guy that trained me on doors before I got to go on my own, they have you knock with one of the like very experienced guys.
Yeah.
And he's like, your goal is to get inside the house. Don't even ask permission. Just walk right in. He like knock the door and say, hey, we're doing this. And then just walk right into the house. And I was like, I don't think that's, for one, I don't think that's kind of legal. And number two, why? They're going to be so
get you killed.
They're going to be so mad at me. And like and he's like, yeah, you don't leave until you get the sale. First house you knock on your own, you have to get the sale. So don't leave until you get the sale. And the first house I knocked on, I actually sold the guy. And
Nice.
And one of the techniques that they would teach you was you're just like, oh yeah, here's what we're doing. We're going to give you the free alarm system. You just pay for the monitoring. And you're like, here, let's go do some paperwork at your table. And you walk right into their house. You don't wait for permission, you just walk in. And I did that a bunch of times. And you would be absolutely shocked how often that works. Like I maybe had 1 out of every 10 times that would happen that they would tell me, no. Or they'd block your way or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. And I was 18 at the time, Now I would never do something like that.
Fuck no.
No, absolutely not. But you're like, yeah, this is just how the job goes. But usually you'd walk right in and you say, can we do some paperwork at the table? And you just walk right by them and you sit at their kitchen table and you pull out your paperwork and they're just like, okay, we'll just do paperwork then. You're already here. And it was just so weird. But that first house that I sold, dude was a Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
He spoke English as well, but Spanish was his first language. And his wife ultimately is the one that told him to buy it because she's like, oh yeah, it's gratis. Okay, great. Let's take it. And while we were doing paperwork, he's like, hey, come with me to the garage. I got to check up on something. And he was making a gigantic pot of carnitas in the garage.
Oh my God.
Huge, like a cauldron of carnitas.
The cauldron.
It was there's no other way to describe it. It was a cauldron. He had it in the middle of the garage, no car or anything in there, just like this burner on the ground. And then
You just get like a ladle and you just...
No, he had like a wooden oar, like a giant stick. He was stirring
God.
it with like a witch's brew. And he said he was making a huge batch of it because his friend's daughter was getting married. And he was making it for the wedding, which would have been the next day.
Must have smelled like heaven
Oh,
in
it was
there.
so good. And then so after we were done with paperwork, he gave me a giant hunk of carnitas in a piece of foil with like 10 or 15 corn tortillas and just sent me on my way. I walked around the neighborhood chowing down on pork.
I'm like, okay.
That was it. I was done for the day. I was like, shit, I'm going to sleep at the park.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, regarding episode 8, where Marty goes up to the house. They finally drive up and...
We're a couple of surveyors. We got lost.
We're a couple of greenhorns.
Yeah, we got lost like a couple of greenhorns. We didn't use your phone.
And then the wife, the sister wife,
Betty,
was just amazing actor.
Oh, she's great.
She's like, oh, we don't have
We
any.
got no phone.
And he's like, well, do you think I can get some water? And it's like, the water ain't good here. And then the mood changes.
Yeah.
And Marty's like,
I'm gonna kick that fucking door in.
and then Marty says, where's Billy Childress?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's like when it starts taking like a very dark turn. It's like, oh, old Billy.
Oh,
Well,
he left.
he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
But he's everywhere or something along the lines of that. And then
That just leads them into.
then he just like kicks in the door.
Well, that leads them into the chase. Errol's out in the back, and Cole.
Yeah.
Cole chases him down. They go through this weird like series of tunnels or something like that.
Yeah, that was a little bit
I think it's
fantastical to me.
I think it's like a storage, some sort of storage facility for farming. At least that's what I kind of took it as.
That's what I thought too.
When we were in Portugal, we went to a winery and there was some old like walls, like stone walls that they had been there since like the 1700s or whatever, and they used it for storage. There was a bunch of like little mini caves in there.
Yeah,
and it reminded me of this.
Oh, okay.
So they go in there, and he's got all the crazy iconography and the little structures built out
like
with
a labyrinth
sticks.
in there.
Yeah, it really is labyrinth like. And at some point in the final chamber, first off, Cole goes in there and he sees this like galaxy swirling sort of black hole.
Yeah, because of his condition, like he like hallucinates, and for whatever reason, when he went in there, well, because he's in Carcosa, and so,
You know what Carcosa is?
I did look it up once, but it's like a
Carcosa
plane of existence.
Carcosa is a fictional city in Ambrose Bierce's
yes.
short story, An Inhabitant of Carcosa. It's also basically where a character from H.P. Lovecraft's, like what is it? What's the flying spaghetti monster? What's his name?
Cthulhu?
Cthulhu, yes. Cthulhu supposedly resides in Carcosa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he gets there. He's like, taken aback by this vision he's having, and then all of a sudden Errol comes out of nowhere and stabs him in the chest. And he lifts his body off the ground.
Yeah, you can see like the massive man that this guy is.
He's a huge creature. Yeah, and then Cole, the badass that he is, starts beating Errol to death with his face.
Yeah, he starts
smashing his
him.
head while he's being suspended by a knife wound in his chest. Marty comes out of nowhere. Errol
shoots him a couple of times, but he's still standing.
Yeah, and then
he takes a couple of slugs.
Errol throws the knife at him.
Yeah, it was a hatchet.
Okay, he also gets wounded in his chest.
Yeah,
and then as Marty's about to be basically murdered,
bludgeoned to death. Yeah,
by Errol, Rust pops him in the skull.
Yeah,
blows his head top of his head right off.
And so now this is where it gets interesting, though, is because you have to remember Marty and Rust aren't cops anymore. And
Marty's a private eye and Rust is a civilian.
Rust is a civilian who just shot a guy in the head from the back. Is that considered? How is that self-defense? How is that self-defense if it's in the back of the head? That's execution style, man.
I guess, but if the guy already stabbed you in the chest and you know that he would immediately come back to kill you, you want to wait until he kills this guy and then turn around and then shoot him in the face?
It was an interesting question that I thought about, like the legality of it, because it is a
sticky situation because neither of them are police officers at this point.
Yeah, because when they were cops and they went and they raided Reggie Ledoux's meth lab, they have plausible deniability, and they're cops, so they're protected by the law.
Well, I think that the fact that Marty's a PI, it makes sense that they were investigating this.
Sure,
he's basically an investigator,
but I don't think he has the right of lethal force, though.
Again, if it's self-defense, and they both have near mortal wounds.
I don't know. Is Louisiana a stand your ground state?
Stand your ground and self-defense are two different things. That's two very different things.
How is it?
Okay. So, stand your ground law, also known as no duty to retreat or shoot first law, allows people to use deadly force in self-defense when they reasonably believe it's necessary to prevent imminent death, serious body harm, or violent crime. These laws remove the traditional duty to retreat before using force if a safe threat is available. So, in a stand your ground is like if you see somebody charging at you, instead of like leaving or trying to run off or whatever, you can just pull your gun and shoot them.
Just bam.
In this case, they've already been attacked by.
I see that line of logic.
It's a Venn diagram. There's a lot in the middle where the situations overlap.
He gets stabbed. They obviously get rescued by the cops.
I love their whole interactions in the hospital.
I do too.
And Marty comes to visit him. He's drinking that Slurpee or whatever.
Yeah, he's just like
Rust wakes up and he's like, "The hell are you doing here?" He's like, "Thanks, asshole."
Yeah,
so came to visit you. You watching me sleep? I just showed up. You woke up. I was getting ready to leave. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I love that. I actually really like the scene where the two cops are talking to Marty and they're explaining like, that was the guy who was behind all of these missing persons like for the past like couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marty stops him like, and he's just like, just stop. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Like he was already done with it. Like
that's true. And then Maggie comes to visit him, and he breaks down. He finally breaks down.
Yeah,
he finally
lets the curtain off of him.
All of the trauma and the disgusting things and the horrible things he's seen throughout this case.
Yeah,
and the years that it's dragged on. I can only imagine how much that's poisoned his mind and poisoned his soul.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
and then
you get basically the final interaction between Rust and Marty, where they're outside the hospital. He brings them a pack of smokes.
Yeah, and
they really.
What are you engaged? Or are you proposing to me? I laughed at that.
Yeah, and then I think at this point, they finally have understood each other.
Yeah,
they finally get it.
I think that in what I got from that last interaction as well is that they've finally became friends.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
Because I think based on the trauma that they went through, there's no other person that's going to understand him the way that they understand each other.
It's like war veterans when they serve together. They're
Right.
they're brothers at that point.
Yeah, I think, and I recall when Rust was saying outside of the hospital, he said, "We didn't get them all, Marty." And then Marty says, "Yeah, we didn't get them all, but we got ours." Meaning that Marty recognizes that, yeah, there's a bigger conspiracy behind this, but there's no way that they can, there's just no, it's futile at that point to even try to uncover something like that with all the politics and
the
people in power. Like
they made an impact.
They exposed what they could.
Yeah. It's like,
and that's what Marty was just trying to convey to us. It's like, yeah, I know there's something bigger out there, but we did our part.
Yeah, that's right. So that's it.
That's right.
That's right. There's others out there, Marty. We got ours.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Russ too, because he was saying like, I shouldn't be here right now. I felt like my dad and daughter's presence when I went out. That
whole bit is great. And if you haven't seen the show, and if our Jack jawing about it for 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours between these two episodes is not enough to convince you. Call to action right now. Go to Max, HBO Max, aka Max, the worst name streaming service on the fucking planet.
Yes.
And watch True Detective season 1. By all accounts, season 2 and 3 not worth really investing your time. Maybe it is, but they're not going to compare to this.
Yeah. I think this stands alone.
Yeah.
But I mean, season 2 and season 3, I enjoyed them for what they were.
I haven't seen them. I'll take your word.
I mean, it's
one day I'll watch them. I like Vince Vaughn and I like Colin Farrell.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, they really blew their load on the first season. They really blew their load on the first season.
They showed their hand.
Because because you're expecting that same quality in the other seasons. Granted, I think season 3 probably matches that same quality.
Really?
It's a little bit more of a slower burn.
Okay.
And the story isn't as compelling, but the acting is incredible. But I mean, just do how I did it. The only thing I knew about True Detective before I watched it was that 6-minute tracking shot through the projects in episode 4. I watched that, but that was years ago. I think I was just really bored one day, on a weekend, and I was just scrolling through Max, and True Detective came up, and I was like, you know what?
Wow, look at this. Season 3, the first episode, Jeremy Saulnier directed it.
Oh.
He's the guy that did Blue Ruin, Green Room, Murder Party, and Hold the Dark.
Wow.
I really like him, so I think I'm going to have to watch that now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the good thing about this series, too, is you don't really have to know anything about the previous seasons. It's an anthology season, or anthology series, so.
And season 3 has Mahershala Ali, Carmen Ejogo, and Stephen Dorff.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a slow burn, but
Ooh,
it's
Scoot
good.
McNairy. I like him, too. And Ray Fisher.
Yeah.
All right. So, we did it.
Season 1.
You feel satisfied? You got to talk
Yes.
about True Detective on this show?
And
we didn't berate you. I didn't berate you. In fact, we encouraged it.
Yeah. Well, so True Detective season 1 is going back into the cupboard for another 365. I'm not going to revisit it again because, like I said, it's like a fine wine. You only take it out for special occasions. So another 365 until I start.
Crack open another bottle of True Detective season 1.
Yeah.
Listeners and viewers, what should Tyler's next obsession be?
Oh, geez.
We've had Danzig has been an obsession for a while. We've had
Danzig,
Golden Girls, X-Files,
Indiana Jones,
True
Detective.
Yes.
We'll see.
I think that's about it so far.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out what your next one is. Watch The Kid Detective. See if you get obsessed with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. There's also another great emotional breakdown scene in that movie, too.
Is there really?
When it all finally hits him what happened. So.
I'll take your word for it.
Don't take my word for it. Watch it yourself. So anyways, that's that. Anything else you wanted to share?
I think we covered it all.
I think we covered it all.
Covered all the bases of it.
So next week, we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yes.
Joseph's going to be back. It'll be all three of us.
Yeah.
And we're going to be reviewing Heather, our cool-ass yard duty Heather. It's her pick.
Kentucky Fried Movie.
And I know nothing about this.
I don't either.
I chose to stay away from everything.
Yeah.
But she's going to call in. She's going to be on the show.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, she's going to call in and talk to us about
Sweet.
what the decision was, all that stuff. Oh, Heather's there. She says, can't wait, settle in, buckle up, have a ball. And the capital of Nebraska is Lincoln. I'll take your word for
Okay.
it. So that's gonna be a good time. So
Right on.
thank you to everybody in the chat, Angry Otter, Heather, aka Dork of all dorks, two of our cool ass yard duties supporting. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And until next time. Thank you for joining us for the last 2 weeks as we review True Detective Season 1, split right down the middle. Follow us next week as we review Kentucky Fried Movie from Patreon Heather.
Kentucky Fried Movie.
Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/MCFC Podcast, and send us an email, mcfcpodcast@gmail.com.
And follow us on Instagram at Middle Class Film Class. And leave us a voicemail, why don't you, at 209-730-6010. Follow us on TikTok at Middle Class Film Class. And go into our show notes to find all of the links there.
That's right. Do it up. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next time.
Class dismissed.
I gotta get out of here.
The bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.
You're free to go.
See you next week.
See you later.
See you later.
That's a wrap.
Great show.